right, alkalinity is looking pretty good. Waiting on the phosphate result. Oh, yeah, phosphate looks pretty good.
Didn't we cover this last week?
Yeah, we did. We talked about testing your tank and logging results. So it's just you interrupted some me time with my phosphate and alkalinity checkers here.
Well, I have them, but I sent you photos. I tested last week.
Did you write it down other than send me photos?
Yeah, I wrote it down in my text message to you. But I have photo log. I have a photo log in my phone.
I have a photo log. Strike a pose with my test results with Jimmy. Work it, test results.
Your tank looks good.
Don't look over here. Look at the shiny object.
Why do you need to test again? It looks great.
Because, yes, I can look at my tank and be like, all right, the water parameters are probably pretty good. But, and you'll get there too one day, but you get there by testing and logging and going, oh, here's the water parameter results. This is what my tank kind of looks like, and getting a feel for it. You got to start somewhere. It's like wax on, wax off at first. So, you got some white here, kind of like Mr. Miyagi, but roles reversed.
Okay, so you will be proud of me about testing because I do have 4 fish in my quarantine and I've been testing my copper every day and keeping it at 0.5. So I am testing something. I'm testing copper.
That's good. We got to get those fish cleaned up before we put them in your tank. We talked about nitrates last time, testing that. It's one of the big nutrients in your tank. Today we're going to talk about, do you know what that is?
It's a green.
You don't have to look. You should know the color.
Green is phosphate. It's phosphate.
We have a winner. We have a winner. If you use this a lot, you would know, but that's okay. All right, enough. So yes, green is phosphate. Easiest way I found to test them in your tank is with a little Hannah checker. Phosphates, PO4 is the chemical formula on those. Those are building block of life. They're in everything. You got phosphates in you, I got them in me. When we eat food, we're eating phosphates. So first red flag, if you ever see a fish food or any food that says phosphate free, they're lying to you. Every food has phosphates in it. It's not a bad thing. We need it. Corals, fish, invertebrates need it to grow.
Well, here's the thing. Did you see my text from last week, my phosphate level?
Yes. 0. But that doesn't mean there's no phosphates in your tank because this guy and all the other phosphate test kits on the market only test for soluble reactive phosphates called SRPs, about 2% of the total phosphates in your tank. That's the phosphates that are running around free in the water that you can actually test. There's a whole bunch of other phosphates in your tank called organic phosphates. They're locked up in organic matter. Think of it as like a big brick wall, and you got all these bricks that are the same colors, then you got these green bricks interspersed in there. That would be an organic phosphate. Here's a really fun thing about organic phosphates. Algae can't process them because they're stuck in this big molecule. Algae can't go in there and pull them out. Bacteria can. So we'll talk about controlling phosphates in a little bit. Bacteria like biopellets, the bacteria that grows on them, they can go into an organic molecule, tear it apart and grab the phosphate and grow. So yes, your tank has 0 phosphates, 0 of the phosphates that we can measure, but there's not 0 phosphates in your tank.
But my test kit says 0. So why am I'm confused. So what, because it's only measuring, what'd you say?
It's only measuring soluble reactive phosphates. That's the phosphates that are free out in the water column. You've got phosphates in your tank that's locked up in the rocks, in the fish, and the little algae that grows in your sand. It's all got phosphates in it. So it's not that you don't have any phosphates in your tank. It's that without running some big chemical reactions and tests, we can't pull out those organic phosphates and actually measure them. So just a little like fun, fact. Next time you're at a party, you're like, yeah, you like my tank? Did you know that there's a lot of phosphates in here that you can't measure? And everyone will be like, wow, this Jimmy guy is pretty cool. You'd be like, thank you. Thank you very much.
So Mark, I just told you my phosphates are 0. and you were too concerned about it. Why are we even talking about phosphates? Why do I care?
Okay, so we talked about nitrates, and phosphates are the other big kind of nutrient label that we put on our tank. So when we say nutrients, you kind of know that means nitrates and phosphates. So if we have high phosphates, that's not good because that can fuel algae and bacteria and other stuff. If you have too low phosphates, that's bad as well. So it's kind of a middle ground which we're going to find in your tank. We don't want no measurable phosphates. We don't want a lot of measurable phosphates, like over 0.15, 0.2, somewhere in there is a rough guideline. You got to have this give and take. We talk about listening to your tank. Right now your tank is 0 in terms of phosphates. Once we get a lot of coral and fish in there, it's going to come up higher and we're going to find kind of the line where it's happy. So if you have too low, you can have an algae problem and other issues. If like your corals don't look good, your corals can die because it's too low. If it's too high, you can get algae issues and your corals can go as well. Now fish don't care about phosphates. It's not a big deal to them. They could care less. They are going to eat some when you feed your fish food, and that's what we expect. So, but we got to start logging it to see where your tank trends, because your phosphate levels, like your nitrate levels, can tell us a lot about your tank. If you have lots of phosphates, then it can be you're feeding too much, you don't have good filtration, you're feeding fish food that's very, very dirty, like there's a lot of stuff in the food that the fish don't eat, so then it breaks down into your tank. It can also tell you that your filtration isn't working right, your skimmer's not working well, or your filter socks need to be cleaned if you have them, or that you need to do a water change. Remember, with water change, you can't really knock down your nutrient levels unless you do a big one, and then the nutrient levels are very likely going to climb up again, but it is a way to control your phosphates. Now, do you know the easiest way, besides water change, and besides feeding less, the easiest way to control your phosphates?
Okay, the easiest way to control phosphates, I don't know.
You're going to add GFO to your media reactor. Do you know what GFO is?
Good. Good. GFO. It's like AT&T. What? ESP. I don't know, dude.
GFO stands for granulated ferric oxide. The GFO grabs the phosphates out of the soluble reactive phosphates out of your water column and it binds them. So we talk about adding GFO to a media reactor to your tank. It's very easy. You get a media reactor, you can put some GFO in there. We'll talk about that when it's time to put that into your tank, but since you have no phosphates, you don't need to add any GFO. This is something that a lot of people get hung up on. They make two mistakes when it comes to adding GFO. Well, I should say really three. First, they add it too early. In your case, if you don't have any phosphates, you don't need to add GFO because you don't need to remove anything. We actually want to build up phosphates. Number two, they put it in a passive type of filtration approach. They would put some in a bag and put it on the side or the bottom of their sump. Problem with this is water's not going to force its way through the media. It's just going to go around the bag, so it's not very effective. Ideally, you want to put it in a fluidized media reactor. We just call it a media reactor. That way you're pushing water through the media and you're getting maximum contact with the water with all the media that's in there. So Jimmy, when we're starting to add GFO in your tank, the other mistake that people make is they say, oh, my tank needs 3 cups of GFO, and they put it all in at once. We're going to start slowly, start with like half a cup, wait for a couple days and see what happens to your phosphate levels, because even if they're, say, 0.08, and we'd like them to be about 0.05, we don't want to go, like we want to just slowly bring it down, real gentle type of lowering of any tank parameter.
So I don't really have questions because, you know, right now it's not really a concern because I don't have any phosphates, but I will be bookmarking this video so that I can come back if I get 0.03 above. I can come back and talk about what I can do to dose or to reduce my phosphates.
0.03 is the lower. Once we get there, we're gonna have like a celebration. I'll fly down there and like phosphates have shown up in your tank. Once they get above about 0.1, then we're gonna talk about lowering them. Like this point, we're just trying to get them to show up. And once they show up, we'd like to get them about 0.03 as a bottom. So don't go crazy once you get to 0.03, other than text me and say, hey, look at the test result. And that's all you need to do at that point.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, I've got 4 more fish coming on board in here in a couple weeks, and then I'm gonna get some more fish. But my guys are only like 5 days on my copper right now, so it'll be a while before I can put the new ones in here, the newest ones.